during a pretty ambitious activity. And of course, people have to sleep, so we camp out and we have lots of great food. And we train some people for contesting as well. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. Well, Field Day started 1933. And this is what W1BDI had to say about it. Besides offering an opportunity to get out in the open in this fine spring weather, the real object of this contest, and notice he referred to it as a contest, is to test portables wherever they may be available. And if successful, we want to make it an annual affair. Well, been pretty successful. Next slide. Well, Field Days have changed somewhat over 82 years. It emphasized club operation in the beginning, and I think clubs are still a big, probably the majority of the participation in Field Day. In the very beginning, it had emergency preparedness aspects, and that's a major part of Field Day. Formal competition is probably mostly in the minds of the participants, but the only place where you see the evidence of competition is in the printed scores. It is a great deal of fun, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this after so many years. My first Field Day myself was in 1959, and it's by far the most popular ham radio operating event. Last year there were nearly 2,300 entries representing more than 37,000 people who were involved. That's about 6% of all the U.S. amateur licenses, so that's a pretty darn good level of participation. Next slide, please. So kind of the basic rules, 24 hours of operating time. We perform our setup mostly on the day before. Even though we're allowed to begin earlier, we typically begin our setup activity around 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning on Friday. There's an enormous number of possible categories you can get into. Emergency power is kind of the theme behind most of it, although there are some home categories where you can operate with commercial power. I lost the slides. There we go. Okay. There's a get on the air station, which does not count towards the station count, but it does count. 500 QSOs count towards the score. It's very important when they go to station to have an experienced coach who can help the inactive hams or newly licensed or unlicensed people get on the air. And a lot of the QSOs at our go-to station are made by unlicensed people. And of course, you really want to get all of the bonus points that you possibly can. So pay attention to the rules and make sure someone is responsible for getting every one of those points possible. Next slide, please. So W3AO's Field Day started as a real informal backyard operation at one of the Potomac Valley Radio Club members' homes back in 1996. And we finished fifth in the U.S. in the 2-transmitter class, but no real attempt to produce a serious score on that one. But it kind of opened our eyes in terms of what could be done. So we've been the national high scorer for the last 12 years in a row. We found that it was very helpful to have another club join with us. And it's been a great partnership between the Potomac Valley Radio Club and the Columbia Amateur Radio Association. The W3AO call sign it's a club call sign that belongs to one of PVRC members, and he loans that to us. And we've greatly expanded the number of transmitters, of course, from our first 2-transmitter entry all the way up to 51 transmitters about 6 years ago. And this coming year will be in the 18A category. 18 transmitters, emergency power, club operation. Next slide, please. So, it said 12, but it's actually 16 straight number one finishes. The most recent one was using the call sign W1AW stroke 3, which was kindly loaned to us by the ARRL, but this year we'll be back as W3AO. Last year, the W3AO call sign was on the air. We used that call for our go-to station. Our record number of QSOs, if you look at this list, occurred 4 years ago in 2011. Propagation by sporadic E on 15 and 10 meters and 6 meters was exceptionally good that year. And that was a new all-time scoring record. Next slide. So what's our approach to this effort? First of all, if it's not a lot of fun, it's hardly worth doing it. And we find that the teamwork aspect of this effort is a great deal of fun. This team has worked together now for about 16 years. Of course, new people join the team all the time and some people drop out. But the teamwork aspect is a great deal of fun. Everything, of course, is great if it all works as planned, but inevitably some problems occur. So successfully dealing with those things, those is fun as well. It's a whole lot more fun if you've got great food, and inviting some people to the team whose primary contribution is food is great help to everyone. And don't forget the new hands aspect of it either. That helps a great deal. Okay, so I see you've changed slides. Planning is real important to this. You need to know who is taking the responsibility for every aspect of the field day event. And we have band captains assigned to every band. That's real important. The layout of the antennas and the cable and so on is my responsibility. I have quite a few people helping me with that. We have another ham entry, KTV, who does all the tower erection with his teams. We have another fellow, WHAR, who does the infrastructure for the site and the fuel and the power and all that. And we've got quite a bit of this stored at KE3Q's farm, so he helps us transport a lot of the equipment and towers from his farm to our field day site. Okay, next slide. And this was our team last year. This is most of the team, and it looks like that was a dry year that year, but not every year is. But this usually our team winds up being about 50 people between operators and support people. Okay, next slide. This is our VHF station. The primary QSOs are made on 6-meter single sideband and 6-meter CW. And what few number of QSOs are made beyond that are made on mostly 2-meter sideband. And then the various other VHF bands that we operate on, usually it's a token number of QSOs, 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. Certainly no great volume. This particular arrangement is a little bit unusual. There are 2 rotators on this back that allow the lower antenna to rotate independently from the ones that are higher. And if you look at that photograph carefully, the photograph in the lower right corner, you can see that there are 2 rotators mounted on that plate. The rotator on the left side, or I guess it's kind of the upper part there, drives the best directly, and the rotator on the right side has a chain drive that rotates the lower antenna independent of the mast. And the vertical is mounted at the top of the mast. Okay, next slide. We operate at a school. We've had excellent success with schools. They typically have quite a bit of land for athletic fields. And this school is only 2 miles from my home, so it's very convenient. We locate our antennas on a 1,000-foot line with the antennas oriented end-to-end to minimize the coupling. This site has good elevation. It's not a mountaintop, but it's clear visibility to the horizon in every direction. And because it is in the community where we live, it's convenient for people to go home or to go home and get materials or whatever they need to do. Our first field days were about 100 miles from here, and although it was a great site, it was a real nuisance also. So this is a little less of an ideal site, but being a few miles from any of our homes, it's a whole lot more convenient. Next slide. So this photograph is, you can see one of the 3-element monoband Yankees we use on the tower in the immediate foreground, and you can see some of the other towers in a straight line behind it. So what we do, it's a formula that works very well for us, is three 3-element Yankees for 20, 15, and 10 meters, a pair of 2-element Yankees for 40, and a tri-bander that we use for GOTA, and dipole antennas for 160, 80, and 40. We operate from a single tent, so everything, all of these antenna feed lines come all the way back to the main tent. So there's over a mile of RG213 that connects the antennas all the way back to the tent. Next slide. So the rules say everything has to be in a 1,000-foot circle, and I think for almost every club that's not a big problem. What we do to maximize the benefit of that site, and I think, for example, 20 meters, one of the 3 20-meter Yankees is located near the center of that 1,000-foot circle, and the other 2 20-meter antennas are located at opposite edges of that circle. And we haven't found it necessary to use special receiving antennas. By having the Yankees oriented tip to tip gives us plenty of isolation without any special measures. Of course, we're on the East Coast, so we have the advantage of just pointing all the antennas directly west. We have no rotators at all. We just point the antennas due west, and that's kind of the end of the story. Next slide. So here's the layout of our site. You can see across the entire slide here is a 1,000-foot diameter of the circle we operate within. And you can see how the different antennas are laid out. Every one of those blue objects is a 50-foot tower with a Yagi. And we actually use 2 lines of Yagi separated about 100 feet. It gives us better separation between the antennas. So you'll notice in the 1,000-foot long line at the top of the slide, all of the 10-meter Yagis and the 40-meter Yagis are along that line. And if you look at the line towards the bottom of the slide, you'll see that those are all the 20 and 15-meter Yagis. And the GOTA at one end. And various dipoles strategically located in between. Next slide. So the masts that we use are AB577 masts. They were widely available about 15 years ago, and we bought about 15 of them, owned by members, and brought out to the field day site. There's a much safer way to install Yagis than trying to tilt towers up and that sort of thing. Next slide. So here's a view of our site. You can see the large tent that's sort of in the middle. We rent that tent every year. It's about 50 feet long, about 20 feet wide. And you can see some of the 8577 masts and monoband Yankees in the photograph. So many of them labeled. Next slide. And again, looking in the opposite direction on the site, you can see more of the towers and Yankees. This was taken from the far north end of the site, and the antenna in the foreground is the 3-element tri-bander used for the GOTA station. Next slide. So here's one of our generators. It's actually, there are 2 generators visible in that photo. These are generators that are commonly used in RVs. They operate at low RPM and are very, very reliable. And one of our club members is a very good mechanic working on generators, so he's refurbished these for us and put them on trailers. It really works well. Next slide. Well, I think this slide speaks for itself. When you've got so many computers and radios and bandpass filters and on, you wind up with a tangle of wires. Next slide. And we always have a briefing about 10 minutes or 15 minutes before field day begins, and here it is. Next slide. And here's some of the ongoing operation. On the left side is 15 sidebands with K3MIM, and then 15 CW right next to her, and then 160 meters and the 280-meter stations at the far end.